I got a new mic. This is what it sounds like. Probably seen it before. There's a reason why people like using it.
Yeah.
That was something I wanted to talk to you about.
No, I know.
Well, I don't get it.
I mean, it kind of just works. It's better than using the wrong mic and sitting in front of an equalizer for hours, trying to squeeze a broadcast tone out of gear that was never built for it. Hey look, that's the mic Joe Rogan uses. How did we get here?
Did you laugh a lot? Because all I did was laugh.
Post Malone and I did a podcast. We did mushrooms.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we had a good old time.
Oh my god.
I mean, I can't believe this is what this mic is famous for, after all it has given us. This thing is the grandchild of a mic that once carried the breath of some of the most legendary pop stars on Earth. You might think I'm exaggerating. Yeah, you might be right. After all, it is just a big hunk of metal and foam. I mean, how important can it be? And why is it so widely used? To answer, we first need to take a look way back in Shure's audio journey. Shure unveiled the SM7 in 1973, evolving from the oversized 1966 SM5 that was designed for broadcasting. The SM7 was designed to be more studio-friendly with enhanced low-end response. Even still, the SM7 was not meant for mundane voiceovers. This microphone was lauded by recording giants like Bruce Swedian. I'm sorry, you don't know who that is? Bruce Swedian is none other than the guy who recorded Michael Jackson's Billie Jean. Yeah. He actually used the SM7 to record Billie Jean. Now you might be thinking, yeah, but Michael Jackson sang into the SM7. You own the SM7dB. Those are two different mics. You're right, the SM7 is a different mic than what I have currently. Here's a video of Bruce Swedian talking about this exact same thing.
7, not a 7B. The current one is a pretty decent microphone, but it's not like the original SM7. And I found that the best microphone for Michael was the Shure SM7.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention, podcasts weren't even a thing in the 1990s. Back when the SM7 and the SM7A were being used by professionals in studio environments.
Whatever you're selling, I ain't buying, yo.
Well.
So naturally, the newer SM7dB would have had to evolve to meet the needs of podcasters and not just professional pop star recordists from the 1980s. Or so you think. Because the truth is, almost nothing about the sound of the SM7 to the SM7B has changed. So are you saying Bruce Swedian lied when he told us that there is a difference? No, he is absolutely correct in saying that, but that did not come from major design overhauls. Shure kept the same capsule, improved the humbucking coil and tightened the shielding and grounding for better hum rejection, added a sturdier yoke for easier and more reliable use, and better windscreen, which also explains why Bruce Swedian said what he said. The relatively brighter SM7 sound when comparing to the B and the DB models to the SM7 has everything to do with the thicker windscreen or the black foam that came with the SM7B and DB mics. Shure sacrificed a little bit of the top end for a better windscreen that would allow people to get right up within kissing distance of the mic for better tone while minimizing plosives, sibilance, and less breath noise. Knowing all that, by the time podcasts did emerge in the mid-2000s, yeah, that far back by the way, creators needed mics that were durable, rejected background noise, and gave that radio station polish without requiring a $10,000 studio chain.
Plural, bitch!
That's when the SM7B, with all of its improvements and pre-established reputation in broadcasting and music, was discovered by podcasters. Shows like Joe Rogan, Experience,
So have you ever done DMT?
It's My Favorite Murder, WTF with Mark Marone, and many more jumped aboard, and sales skyrocketed. Now you find the SM7B everywhere, from YouTube videos to podcasts. But to respond to your original complaint, the main difference between the SM7 and the SM7B is you are sacrificing a little bit of top end with the SM7B, as its predecessor from 1978 had a brighter tone. I'll link a good video explaining the difference between this mic and the SM7, the mic that Michael Jackson sang into. But what's the difference between the SM7B and the SM7dB, you may ask? Well, that is more simple to explain. You see, the SM7B had a major flaw, which was that aside from being $600 Canadian, it needed an ultra-clean preamp for clean gain. This is something that is not easy to achieve with a budget audio interface, meaning you are looking to spend an extra $250 to $300 Canadian just to push the otherwise top-tier mic. But for $100 extra, the SM7dB offers a built-in preamp that saves you the hassle, meaning the SM7dB is the exact same mic as the SM7B, just deceivingly cheaper, and also offers some quality of life features for the user, mainly not needing a pair of pliers handy just to change the settings on the back. Come on, Shure. You don't need me telling you that was a bad idea. Anyways, the mic's popularity cannot be stated without mentioning Shure's philosophy, and that was to deliver broadcast-grade quality to the masses. They did that while offering the least amount of user friction as possible, meaning the least amount of setup, post-processing, and chaining, for the ultimate plug-and-play experience. With thoughtful sound design and rock-solid build, they were primed to make history. Popularity also came from putting the mic where people would notice. Not just in creators' hands like yours or mine, but on well-known podcasts that needed a consistent, interchangeable sound. That smart placement filled podcast desks and boom arms in front of millions of listeners and viewers, cementing their position in a saturated market through pedigree and reach. Hold on though. What if you wanted to cement your position in a saturated market? Have you ever stopped yourself to ask, what if I could sound just like Michael Jackson himself in today's time? I wonder how much that would set me back. Allow me to answer my own question, I guess. Assuming you have the skill to mix and master the audio like Bruce Swedian, let alone the skill to sing like the king of pop himself, you would need an AMS Neve 1084 module, a mic line preamp that drives and pushes the weak signals from a mic to a usable line level, while also offering EQ settings before the mic gets plugged into the URI 1176 compressor, automatically reducing the volume when the signal gets high and increasing it when low. In other words, compressing the sound. But with the added benefit of using field effect transistors that enables fast attack / release times, giving it that aggressive punchy character. An EMT250, the first unit to digitally simulate the acoustics of a space. In other words, a reverb machine. The first of its kind. And the EMT252, the successor to the EMT250. Same idea, just redesigned for the early 1980s, with updated hardware and different user interface, bringing the total to $67,422.47 Canadian.
Oh my god!
Yeah, now you know why the SM7dB is a fantastic deal, even at $700 Canadian. I mean, the SM7 can be bought for around $1,600 Canadian used, since it's a vintage mic. But you would need a lot of equipment chained to it to get a sound similar to what Michael Jackson had at the time. Don't forget, back then, the analog physical preamp, compressor, and reverb machines would have been your only option, as no computer was powerful enough to simulate these machines digitally. Yeah, these machines are mainly collectibles now, and that's why they fetch these ridiculous prices. Luckily though, we don't live in the 1980s, and we can download some plugin emulators. Let's see what we could do to bring back the sound and tone of a legend with our current setup, without needing to purchase any of those overpriced museum relics. My DAW, or audio editing software for the uninitiated, I'm using ReaFir. You do have to pay for it eventually, but for now I'm simply using the free demo. What I do like about ReaFir is they implemented a novel idea on licensing, and that's if you pay for the license, you own it, like for a lifetime.
Oh my god.
Crazy how that's no longer common nowadays. I am, however, buying that license simply because of that fact, and the fact that it is genuinely a good audio workspace. I'll leave some links in the description if you want to mess around with some of these free-use plugins or even the DAW. I'll also link some tutorials on how to install the plugins on any OS. Now for the zesty part, sounding like a smooth criminal. I downloaded the plugins and installed them onto ReaFir. Flick the settings on the back of my mic to bypass, This should ensure that the SM7dB is not pushing the mic internally, just like the old SM7 from 1978. We will be pushing the mic from the retro plugins we just installed. Hop back on my music spaceship and pulled up the first plugin I just added by clicking on the FX symbol after turning it on. Then searching the plugins we just installed and adding them. Mind you, none of these digital plugins emulators will be accurate seeing how they were free. But they should get us pretty close. Now, there are some high-quality, expensive plugins for professional use, but we won't be using those for obvious reasons. Starting off, the first thing I added is a pre-installed plugin called ReaFir. I use this to cancel some background noise, seeing how my room is not sound-treated. Go down to Mode, select Subtract, then click on Auto Build Noise Profile. And be sure to leave a small initial recording where you don't make any noise, so you can cancel whatever the mic picks up. Now, any frequencies that are within that range are canceled. Awesome. Next up is Break Channel. We will be using this as a stand-in for the near $6,000 vintage preamp. I noticed that in the original recording, Michael Jackson voice was clear and airy but not harsh, so I increased the high shelf to around 2 decibels. For the bell curve dials in the second row, I wanted to cut some of those nasal sounds that I noticed occurred at around 3.2 Hz, and toned it down by minus 1.5 decibels. As for the low shelf, I set the selector to 110 Hz, and toned it down to around negative 2 decibels. This made the audio sound a little more tight in my opinion. Changed the blue dial to 160 to get rid of some of the chesty sound, for lack of a better word. Move the red gain dial to around the 2 o'clock position. This adds more plug-in flavor while also boosting the gain, obviously. Then finally, I tuned the trim dial according to where my volume peaked when monitoring. I wanted the sound to be around negative 12 dBFS, so it is at the right volume to go into the next plugin, which is ReaEQ. Now, since I'm using the SM7dB, I know that the SM7 has a brighter tone when looking at the frequency response tables, so I will try to remedy that by boosting some of the high end on the SM7dB. I did that by changing one of the nodes to plus 3.0 decibels at 6500 Hz and 1Q bell curve. Another to plus 2.0 decibels at 10,000 Hz and 0.7Q high shelf. And decided to mimic the SM7 even more by trimming some of the lower end frequencies by negative 1.5 decibels at 250 Hz at 1Q using a bell curve. Moving on to Fet-ish by Analog Obsession, or the stand-in for the Uri 1176 compressor. Change the high pass filter to 80 Hz, which cuts some of the rumble. Change the input to around the middle position, or when the needle reaches negative 3 to negative 7 reading on peaks. Change the speed at which the compressor activates to around the 3 o'clock position. Lowered the release to around the 10 o'clock position, left the ratio at 4:1, and changed the mix to 70% to avoid over squishing the sample. Before I get into the reverb, I noticed that my S's were kinda harsh, so I added a de-esser. You can copy your de-esser settings to what I have on the screen. And finally, for the thing that should bring everything together, the reverb machine. Now, I couldn't find any good emulators for this without having to download some IR folders from questionable websites, so I decided to use Reverberate, a stock plugin on Reaper itself. Change the wet slider to a more subtle negative 15. Knowing that the EMT250's tail reverberations were tight and small, I set the room size to 32, the dampening to around 67, left the stereo width to the max of 1, the initial delay to 25 milliseconds to separate the reverb from the actual recorded sound, low pass to 9500 Hz, and the high pass to around 120 to get rid of some muddiness from my own vocals. After all that, let's see what we got. This is gonna be brutal.
Billie Jean is not my lover. She's just a girl that thinks that I am the one. But the kid is not my son. Ow!
Okay, so maybe I won't be fronting the Jackson 5 anytime soon. But if one little microphone can carry that much history, it's worth looking at what it's really offering today, right? I mean, this is what around $950 to $1,150 Canadian could get you in today's money. That's $719 Canadian plus tax for the mic. Along with an audio interface like mine, the Universal Audio Volt 2 at $295 Canadian plus tax. Although you could opt for getting a cheaper audio interface. All you would need is an XLR input socket and a 48 volt power delivery, as the SM7 lineup does require that. I was looking online and noticed that the Focusrite Scarlett Solo 3rd gen for $139 Canadian plus tax fits the bill. I hope this video gave you a good idea of, if not the versatility or history of the SM7dB, perhaps why so many of your favorite YouTubers / podcasters rely on it for a living. From Billie Jean to whatever the heck this is, there is no doubt that this mic has solidified its position as the lethal everyman's broadcasting weapon of our day. And that, frankly, is a setting no pair of pliers can change. Thank you so much for all the likes and comments on the last video. Your support means so much to me. Not to mention your feedback, good and bad, were a welcome change from my usual empty comment section. I hope you enjoyed this video just as much as the last one. Leave a comment letting me know if you have some suggestions for some topics I can cover for the upcoming video, or maybe even if you liked the audio quality from the last video better. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.